Greetings, Poe fans, and welcome back to Poe Discussions with Carmen and
Jeanie.
welcome. And we have a very special guest tonight, Ansel Faraj.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And Ansel, just go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am an independent filmmaker. I'm a director, really, and I'm from Venice, California, and hence Beach Boy.
Yes.
And yeah, I've been making movies since I was 6 years old. Um,
Wow.
and I don't come from an industry family. I'm not a Nepo baby. I didn't go to film school. I sat in front of Turner Classic Movies,
Hmm.
basically since they launched the channel 30 some years ago,
Yeah.
and just read every film book, film history book, film technique book I could get from the library, and
Mhm.
started on a videotape camcorder with my Universal Monster action figures. And now I'm a director, and I've made 11 films that are available streaming and on Blu-ray and DVD, and
Mhm.
been released in theaters. And yeah, just
Awesome.
doing it.
That is awesome.
Absolutely.
That is so cool. Do you have like with Turner Classic Movies? Because I am an old movie buff. My parents were, graduated in the mid 50s and just kind of put me onto all things older. And so, do you have like a favorite uh, older movie that you like the best?
Well, yeah, but that's like not a fair question because there's
Ah,
um
I understand.
yeah, I'll say right now Black Narcissus, which is a an English
Okay.
film, 1947. It's by
Hmm.
Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. It's a story about a convent that started in the Himalayas, run by Deborah Carr,
Okay.
and all the nuns slowly go mad. So that's just
Oh, yeah, that's right up Poe's alley.
you know
That is a
lust
definite
and
interest.
sexual repression and all that good stuff. So
Okay, okay. Yeah, I've heard of that film. I have not seen it, so I'll have to add it to my long list of movies I need to watch.
it's a
So,
good one. It's a good
yeah.
one.
So,
So
do
that
you?
means that you are more drawn to the rather, I don't want to put the genre of just horror onto it because you
uh,
probably have a broader base than that, but have you just been drawn to the horror aspect of things? Is what kind of made
Um,
you veer to that area?
I don't want to say yes because I've always, my older sister, she and I would watch, That's Entertainment and Valley of the Dolls, and so
mhm.
like no.
Hmm. Yeah.
But the flip side, I my parents were I don't want to say they were lenient because there were definitely movies I was not allowed to see when I
Yeah.
Eh,
was a kid.
yep.
But I had genre kind of coming at me from all angles. My mom with Dracula and
Hmm.
Hmm.
Frankenstein and Dark Shadows and all that, and my dad with Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Blade Runner. So
Yeah.
it was kind of, but then I loved the Maltese Falcon and the Thin Man, and
Hmm.
so it was
Ooh.
I don't want to
Yeah.
say yes to just horror.
Yeah.
Well, that's good
Marx
because
Brothers.
yeah, most of the time, a specific genre isn't, I don't want to say tunneling yourself, but
Yeah.
having a wide variety and a general love of just movies kind of helps you see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean the pun part of that, but I'm just saying that
Own the pun, Jeannie.
exactly. But all those that you mentioned were great classics that it's a lot about the story, not just the picture.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Totally.
does that help, since you said that you were mostly directing, everything now. Do you have a hand in the screenplay of
Yeah.
changing things, or do you write anything, or are you just, is it just your vision that you're putting on the screen?
No, I mean I write I'm in the middle of rewrites right now actually on a project.
Okay.
But I mean I've been writing, I mean really before I started, making movies before, because I didn't have a camera when I was a kid. I
Mhm.
used to go around like this and film everybody like that in
That's
school,
awesome.
drive them all crazy in class. But I started out, writing short stories and fiction and writing my
Mhm.
my own sort of adaptations of Poe stories, to be, on topic.
Yes.
So writing was sort of the I found actually I was going through storage the other day, digging out my monster toys that I haven't seen in 20 some years. But I
Mhm.
found some paperwork from like the first grade, and it said, what do you want to be? And I said, I'm going to be a writer. And uh, so there was the writing was there, but directing when okay, I'm sorry, I'm going. You guys got me on a whole thing here,
Oh,
but
it's
when
all
Sorry.
good.
when
Oh, yeah, it's all good.
just shut me up when you've had enough. When early 90s, my parents took me to see Phantom of the Opera, the stage show,
Hmm.
before it
Ooh.
became a glittery romance,
Musical.
before the movie, well, it was the musical, but it was before the movie version and before
Gotcha.
it got all
Okay.
very glittery and sort of,
Hmm.
the girl camp Twilight thing. When it was still scary, and he was shooting fireballs across the stage, and it was very dark and gothic and all that. And
Yeah.
saw it at the Pantages Theater here in Hollywood, and so I was like 4 or 5, and I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. I want to do that. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they're doing it, but I want to do that because that is so the directing thing then grew out of that, and
Okay.
getting to control the narrative. And
Hmm.
uh Yeah, and then Dark Shadows as well sort of informed that, because my mom had Catherine Lee Scott's first book, which is my scrapbook memories of Dark Shadows, and within it there's
Okay.
all behind the scenes photos of them filming the show and the first movie
Hmm.
House of Dark Shadows, and seeing Dan Curtis behind the camera, and seeing
Yeah.
like there's this thing that happens. It doesn't just what you're seeing on your television didn't just like happen. There's a process, and this
Hmm.
thing you can actually do. So, all right, that sounds fun.
I mean, hey, it was. I mean, it has to be if it made that such a visceral reaction to you
Yeah.
to say that that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. It's kind of like when a young kid that sees the shuttle take off for the first time and says, "Oh, I want to go to space. I want to
Yeah.
do that."
Right.
And so this kind of leads me into the question. You said you wanted to be a writer and you adapted some of the Poe things. And we always like to ask, but not that specific yet. But what was your first introduction with Poe?
Yeah.
Probably again through Phantom of the Opera with, he dresses as the Red Death. And
Hmm.
um so, Mask of the Red Death, and then Pit and the Pendulum. I remember I was sort of this is how weird I was as a kid. In the second grade,
You're in good company because
Yeah,
we're the
you're in good
same
company.
way.
in the second grade, we had to do this project that was like, I'm mangling it because it was so long ago, but like how good things for society. So for whatever reason, I was like, well, I'll just build the Pit and the Pendulum because
Oh, cool.
so that's not going to help society. Torture and punishment is not. And my teacher even kind of looked at me like, what? What are you? And I think at the end, my mom just made Jello cups and I brought them, because it's like, how are you going to build the Pit and the Pendulum, and how is this going to help society? But like, I
Yeah.
was fascinated with because there was again a kids version of Poe adapted stories, and the artwork
Hmm.
that was really cool, and the way the pendulum looked, and then I saw the Raven with Karloff and Lugosi, where Lugosi is just
Mm.
obsessed with Poe, and he's got the pit
Yeah.
and the pendulum in his basement. And so yeah, the Mask of the Red Death and Pit and the Pendulum were like very big. and then I memorized The Raven,
Okay.
and I can still kind of recite the opening. And Yeah, so that was my through line with Poe, and then
Hmm.
it kept escalating into Lovecraft, and my mom would read. Well, she would censor versions of Anne Rice books when I was way
Yeah.
too young.
Right.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
Interview with the Vampire, and I'm
Mhm.
6. Not really appropriate reading, but
Yeah. Yeah. But
Well, you know,
an adult reader can definitely censor the parts
yeah,
for the
all the
child. Yeah.
homoeroticism, went out the window.
Yeah. So so I did get to watch all of your Poe adaptations and I absolutely loved all of them. It's hard to like I was telling Jeanie before you came on, I was like, it's hard for me to pick the one I like the best. But I think that it was the poem for Poe, where
Home of Poe, yeah.
you added in all of there were several different of the stories and poems together
Oh,
and really made a story out of it. I loved that. That
thank
was
you.
amazing. I mean, they're all amazing. You did a
Thank
great
you.
job.
Thank you. No, that one I am actually really proud of. It's part of my, I did, the anthology series, Theater Fantastique,
Hmm.
Chris Pennick, and yeah, that one because I'd always wanted to do like a full Poe thing and over the years,
Hmm.
and we had done House of Usher, and we did a version of A Descent into the Maelstrom, which wasn't really faithful, but we conglomerated a couple things. But
Yeah.
Poem of Poe was a lot of fun because yeah, we were drawing from all the different stories and poems, and
Hmm.
I wanted it to feel like you were writing the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland but through
mm,
the
Yeah.
Edgar Allan Poe. So it was like like a Halloween carnival,
Yeah.
and
It
and
felt like that, and it,
thank
it
you,
really did. Yeah, I loved it. I loved
thank
it.
you, and treat Poe almost like Shakespeare. You're reciting different stanzas and quotes and stuff, but there's
Mhm.
it's used as dialogue and it's performed and
Yeah.
uh, and also at the same time I could tribute Mario Bava and Roger Corman and the AIP Poe
Hmm.
films and I had
Absolutely. Yeah, those all are like I love those adaptations as well. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of
Mask of the
fun.
Red Death, the Roger Corman Vincent Price one is one I saw around that same time, my formative years. I was like 6. I saw it on videotape,
Hmm.
and I remember I started it, and there was all these other Vincent Price trailers beforehand, and they had Doctor
Um,
Fives and Scream and Scream Again, and they kind of
yes.
freaked me out. So I was like already like on edge, and my parents are sitting there, and you don't know if okay how fast are they going to take the videotape out if you act scared so you don't act scared and the movie finally begins and the old lady that contracts the Red Death at the start of the film and uh so Vincent Price goes in the tent and her face is all red and she screamed and I was like oh my god and the tape came out but I finished it the next day when they were asleep and I
Oh, that's
I
great.
stuck with me. So like when Jane Asher is going through the castle and she's hearing the weird whisperings and then she finds
Yes.
Vincent in the coffin and he sat up, that like haunted me for years until
Hmm.
yeah, until finally it came out on DVD and it was like it was still so fresh in my mind and I
Yeah.
love that one. That I think is Corman's best Poe film.
I love that one, and I love the Fall of the House of Usher, the Corman film too. Yeah, I felt like Vincent Price really emulated Roderick so
Yeah.
well. It just loved that one too.
That took me a while to appreciate. Because
Hmm.
again, in the videotape era, it was pan and scan. And, those movies were shot in CinemaScope, so it's
Right,
a
right.
wide
Hmm.
frame, and it was panned and scanned, and it was faded and just a crappy looking print. So
Hmm.
mm,
and it's a very talky film,
Yeah.
and I couldn't. I Yeah, I remember even the Pinola movie. Same thing. I couldn't. I was really excited, and I just couldn't connect with it. Um, and then when they came out on DVD, I was a little bit older, and you're seeing it in the proper presentation. And
Yeah.
then I was, oh yeah, I totally get it. Like
Yeah.
this is a great haunted house film. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, I have not, Dr. Jeff, I said, definitely said watch Loon Lake. I have not gotten a chance to yet. I think, Jeannie, you didn't get a chance to see Loon Lake yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
It's okay.
And so I know David Selby was in it.
Yeah.
So with like Dark Shadows was a huge influence for you. How was it working with him? Having, I'm sure, watched Dark Shadows probably more than once.
Yeah, I mean, David, I mean, they're all, it's life is weird. Like they're all like weird extended family. So
Yep.
Okay.
they're not, to me, they're not. So when I did my first film with them, which was Dr. Mabuza, and I had Jerry Lacey, Kathleen Scott, and Laura Parker, I made it very
Okay.
clear, and it was true. I didn't want to work with them just because they were on Dark Shadows. I wanted to
Right.
work with them because they're really good actors, and the
Hmm.
body of work that they had done, after the show and on stage, and people that, they're they're really good actors, and to you know get that opportunity to direct them, and I was so young, I was 20. It was a
Hmm.
bit nerve-wracking, but I had met David around then, and he and I had, he's like, I'd love to do something with you, and he just
Yeah.
shot the social network, and so it was, quite a big deal. But I mean, he's just like a down to earth, good old country
Hmm.
boy. But we always were in communication and talked about, okay, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? And then and he always kept telling me, Ansel, I want to play a guy. I don't want to be in a suit. And so we were writing Loon Lake, and with my filmmaking collaborator Nathan Wilson, um,
Hmm.
and we had written this farmer character, and I was like, you know what? I think this could be David Selby. And he's like, there's no way that David Selby's going to do this. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, well, let me call him up. And so I said, hey, David, so we got this thing. Do you want to come to Minnesota? And in the fall, I mean, I'm from LA. We shot everything in LA, so this was like going to be like a whole deal. We're going to go on location, but I'm like, David,
Yeah.
come with us to Minnesota and play this farmer and also play this preacher in the 1800s and
Hmm.
me the script. So I sent him the script, and he's like, yeah, that sounds fun. And
Awesome.
Nice.
we would hang out. We'd be up till like 4 a.m. having beers and just talking and
That's so
shooting
cool.
off. And yeah, it's like, yeah, it's not. I mean, they're just people. They're just
Yeah.
people, and they want to have fun and do a good job. And yeah, I've worked with David now like 4 times.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's
Yeah.
he's cool.
Well, and it's good to know that. Well, I know as far as an actor, they don't want to get pigeonholed into a
Yeah.
particular, well, like bad guy, good guy,
Right.
this,
Hmm.
that, and the other. So, I mean, and it's good that they can let themselves out and be free and just act and have that fun times.
Yeah.
So, as a director, it's really, well, I'm speaking from, just as I guess I would say hypothetically, because I directed stage plays for middle schoolers and high schoolers, never on film. So,
Yeah.
but when you have a type of actor that just loves to be in a character, no matter what the character is, it just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Am I getting it close
Oh
to
yeah.
where it feels with David, what he was doing and stuff?
Yeah, yeah, and also, I mean, also, I gotta say, I used to direct all the school plays, so I directed the middle school kids and the
Ooh.
kids as well, and they
That's
listened to me
awesome.
more so than the teacher.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so I know that all about, and when I was making movies with friends from school, because I've been
Yeah.
doing it for so long,
Yeah.
so it's still the same process. But like when you
Yeah.
have actual actors, um, I mean. Yeah, there really isn't that much difference in the terms of the process. And when, I would make movies with friends from school, they were having the same amount as fun of,
Hmm.
we're doing, like, I did this film Faust, which was, based on the Goethe's play Faust, but we did
Hmm.
it as a Ken Russell-esque rock opera. So everybody's like lip syncing to
Oh,
Marilyn Manson and the Eurythmics and Mick
that's
Jagger,
awesome.
like total crazy head, Tears for Fears songs. And we were in the 12th grade at that point. But
Hmm.
they were having just as much fun. You know, the guy that was playing the devil as David Selby was having just as much fun being a farmer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's the same kind of, all right, this is how you're feeling at this moment, and here's the camera, and you're gonna walk here, do that. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go. You know, it's so yeah, I hope that that answered that question. I don't know if that was clear or
Yeah. I mean, and it's a thing that, and I know I've heard a few people because I'm friends with some that are just stage actors, and I'm friends with some that are, screen actors. So, and they say the thing, it's not so much the audience, it's how you feel in the moment when you're doing it, whether it's a live audience or whether it's on camera. It's all about how you as the actor and the character are at the moment, and you want to make it the best you can, no matter whether it's alive and you don't want to screw up, definitely. But it's just, I
Hmm.
get it that I just think it would be so much fun just to be behind the camera and just see these in person and seeing it come to life. I can
yeah.
tell from the smile on your face that when you just think about it, it just
Yeah.
makes you glow.
Yeah.
Well,
I
thank you.
agree, Jeannie.
It's, I mean, I guess something else I could say is, you know, working with real actors, especially veteran actors, and I've worked with not just the Dark Shadows cast, I've worked, you know, several other,
Yeah.
done quite a few
Hmm.
things, but you know, you get to, you know, life experience helps a lot because then you're able to draw upon
Hmm.
oceans and memories and you know, the sort of not full method where you're doing, you know, emotional recall, but like
Hmm.
you're able to feel things a bit stronger than, you know, rather than like a high schooler that's doesn't have a concept of how the real world, you know, works.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
all that. But it's again, yeah, I mean, there's seeing anything come to life, especially after you've worked on it for so long. I mean, it's always part of it is stressful, but part of it is when you get that moment because it's just capturing moments.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Lighting just happened to be right, and they just happen to turn a certain way in frame, and everything just work. You know, like yeah, that's when you feel alive and powerful, and I like those situations. I like when
Mhm.
I'm, you know,
Hmm.
we are losing the sun and we have four more setups to go and it's going to take X amount of time and you've got to do it now. Like
Hmm.
me and that, I thrive. Like that's just like I like I don't know. Is that sort of sadomasochistic to
No.
be to be kind of stressful? But like but it's fun because then you get it and it's just if you get this sort of rewarding feeling
Yeah.
and
If
it's a
you
lot
feel
better
it.
than yeah, it's a lot better than you know, I mean, I've done reality jobs. I've bussed tables and managed a
Hmm.
hotel kitchen, and that's not fun.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, being on set, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Well,
Nice.
and what you do is pure art. I mean, it's
Mhm.
like you said, the just that capturing that right moment that your vision is telling you that's what you want, and then it actually happens. And so
Yeah,
that's got to be just a surreal moment to experience.
Sur not surreal so much as just
Okay.
thrilling. Um,
Okay.
and
Okay.
also something, you know, getting actors to be emotionally honest,
Mm-hmm.
especially with, you know, let's use Poem of Poe for an example. Like
Hmm.
that is a surreal art piece, that whole thing.
Yeah.
But there is emotional honesty in there, you know, the and to get actors to bring that emotional honesty and groundedness
Mm-hmm.
to outlandish situations or characters or worlds, um, that's always kind of fun too, because you're playing with a dichotomy of just like reality versus fantasy and how can we
Mm-hmm.
connect to this both we the players in this sandbox and the audience out there that will be watching it and working with the actors to get that honesty. That to me, like over the course of my career so far, like that to me has become much more exciting than like I'm gonna splash a bunch of blood across the screen, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
when I was a kid, like that was the more fun. I did a film on the French Revolution. I couldn't wait to have my friend who was Marie Antoinette cut her head off, and the blood gonna like now I'm like, yeah, that's I'd rather just have a moment between two characters that you know I did a film, Will and Liz, which is it's a love story, and
Hmm.
there's a scene where they break up, and like that is more fun to me than the pyrotechnics and gore, because
Yeah.
it's real, and tricking an audience into we all know what reality is, we all know what life is like, so
Hmm.
making reality and or putting reality on the screen, but making you the audience believe it and make
Hmm.
it seem instantaneous, and capturing a moment between two people that is something, let's say a private moment between them, when
Hmm.
we've been working so hard to make it look effortless and natural and instantaneous. Like that's like the best for me. Like
Yeah.
I hope that made sense too. I'm just
It,
in
it
an
Oh yeah.
it
abstract.
does. Yeah. It does.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it makes it real to the audience, and that is the one thing, the connection that I love about movies. If I can't make a connection to a movie, I can't watch it. I can't
Yeah.
stand it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like when you were just talking about how, at the early days, just throwing blood, as much blood and everything. And that's what bothers me most about some horror films, because the students would always talk about, oh, this is great, you should watch this. And I'm like, if it's just a bunch of, people going around and throwing blood and gore, and but
Yeah.
if
Hmm.
there's nothing that I can, excuse the pun again, sink my teeth into,
Right.
Yeah.
then I can't connect with it. And so therefore, yeah, hey, it might have been good. It might have had some nice special effects, but at the
Hmm.
end of it, like you're saying, special effects is not really
Yeah.
what makes the movie the movie.
Hmm.
Exactly.
And so that leads me into my question about when you're doing the Poe movies, did you ever feel like you had like a little Poe sitting on your shoulder thinking, you know, is this going to be up to a Poe standard, or is Poe going to like this if he was here right now, kind of thing? I mean, just as a person, did you think from his point of view at any point, is what my question is.
Right. No. I can't.
Uh-huh.
Because but that is actually a very interesting question. No, I can't, because I have to think about what what am I trying to say with the
Right.
material?
Yes.
What do I want to see, first of all? And both as a pretty much, what do I want to see as a viewer? But what am
Hmm.
I trying
Hmm.
to say with this? Especially with, like, let's say, the House of Usher.
Hmm.
There's, I mean, Corman's film is sort of the top version of it, but there's been
Hmm.
numerous versions and interpretations of it. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you do this when it's been done to death? But put your
Hmm.
own, like, why? Why does
Hmm.
it need to exist? So I can't think of like, well, what would Poe say? Because it's Poe already said what he wanted to say with it. He wrote it,
Right.
Hmm.
So no, I can't think like that. I have to think, what am I doing with this, and justifying its existence, you know, on my terms.
Okay.
Well, and thank you for sharing that, because one of
Yeah.
the things that a lot of people don't understand is when someone is recreating or creating something from through their own vision, but
Hmm.
it's from something like The Mask of the Red Death or something like that. They don't understand that you are using the inspiration and
Right.
the idea that is percolating inside of you from how you felt from it.
Right.
So I just kind of wanted someone to understand that no, you're not doing it like if you are a multiple personality of Poe or something. You're doing it as kind of an homage
Yeah.
Yeah.
to something that was created inside of you because of what he wrote. Does
Yeah,
Hmm.
that so
very much so.
yeah, yeah. So I hope I hit that of what you were, getting forth.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
that was what I was wanting. That's what I was wanting you to tell me, is because I wanted people to understand from that creative side how it was working,
Hmm.
you know.
I mean, I can, this isn't Poe, but it's in the same vein. I've been working on uh trying to get the Dunwich Horror made. HP Lovecraft,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, hand in hand. And I've been wanting to make that since I was 11 years old, but it's been trying. Maybe it'll happen sooner than later. But the
Hmm.
script for that, adapting that story into a
Hmm.
film, and there's already been a film, which, I've grown to like. Well, I didn't
Yeah.
when I first saw it. But taking that, and I can't, and Lovecraft's, so, Lovecraft lived during the beginnings of the film era. He saw Dracula with
Hmm.
Bela Lugosi, and he walked out. He hated it.
Hmm.
So, his idea of entertainment, he wouldn't like anything, I don't think. But taking his text and bringing it to life, and also again justifying its existence. Why
Hmm.
why does this version need to exist? But
Yeah.
also freshening it up for a 2024 audience versus a
Hmm.
Hmm.
bunch of readers in 1928.
Yeah.
You're taking apart the text, and then you're re-putting it back together, but with your own aesthetics,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
your sort of own emotional inspiration, and you've got to make changes. You can't just be faithful.
Hmm.
There was a
Hmm.
film, oh, I know. I just recently revisited, um, in 1977, the BBC did Dracula with Louis Jourdan, and
Yeah.
it's considered the
Hmm.
most faithful version of Bram Stoker,
Hmm.
for television. And I'd seen it a couple years back, and I liked it. But I revisited it a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, it's fine. And it's so faithful to a fault that I think that its faithfulness hurts it, because,
Hmm.
and I'm probably in the minority, and people can write me hate mail and be like, "You're an idiot." I don't care. I'm entitled to my opinion. I thought it was boring. I couldn't sit through it because it was so rigid to the text, and it
Hmm.
wasn't, and how many Draculas do we have? I mean,
Oh, it's yeah.
most adapted thing ever.
Hmm.
But bringing a life to it, bringing something, granted it's on television, but something cinematic, opening it up and respecting the text, but hey, we have to reconfigure it for an audience.
Hmm.
That goes back to me saying, Dunwich Horror, it's faithful, it's very faithful to the story that Lovecraft wrote, but there are significant changes, you know, to characters, and bringing, real human emotion to very twisted
Hmm.
people,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and also, just also how you have to tell a story in a film, and condensing a timeline, and reconfiguring the series of events, but still being respectful and truthful to the essence of the text.
Yeah.
Not just Lovecraft, but Poe, or, any
Yeah.
sort of book to film adaptation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, I hope that wasn't too abstract. Like,
No, not at
Yeah.
all. And I totally agree with you with Dracula. I read it several years ago, and I actually listened to it this time because my drive to work is like 40-ish minutes, and so over a few days listened to it again, and I got more out of it. But just in seeing several adaptations of Dracula, and some will say, this is the most faithful, just different people's versions. And that book, it's a fantastic book, but you have to take the license to adapt it from those memoirs of how it's written, And it's like if you are faithful to that, it is going to be boring because it's like it's going to be a bunch of flashbacks, and it's to me not going to be linear enough to make sense.
Right.
So
Right.
I agree with you on that.
Well, and the aspect of it is you can be faithful to a
Hmm.
story, but you don't have to follow it word for word.
Yeah.
Like you need to be faithful to the storyline and to what the maybe the writer intended, but you can,
Hmm.
like you've done many times so far, Ansel, and so what you've done is you can show that there is faithfulness, but there is also individuality of your
Yes.
interpretation.
Yeah.
And there's not anything wrong with that. And it just
No.
makes it so much better because like with our Poe Unplugged, where we talk about different things that Poe's
Mhm.
wrote, it's not it's not designed to specifically go over every little piece
Right.
of what he's written word for word. It's about how it made us feel and how
Yeah.
we interpret it.
Hmm.
And so that's good that we can see that on film through you.
Hmm.
So thank you.
Yeah.
That you have a wonderful talent is what I'm trying to get at, that
Yes.
you can show it and we still get the same fateful feeling
Hmm.
Thank you.
as we would if we were reading the story or we were thinking about Poe. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
with Poe also, I mean, so much of him is uh it's madness, it's dread, it's
Hmm.
what is reality, what is illusion, and that whole,
Hmm.
and you take the sort of the basic themes and recurring motifs in his work and you can apply them as a script that I'm working on right now. It's
Oh.
not it's more of like a, I don't want to call it a Blumhouse type film, but it's a contemporary horror piece. But
Okay.
Oh,
I've been
nice.
thinking about Poe and just like the things that Poe would write about and his themes and the atmosphere, and how,
Hmm.
you take that and sort of infuse that into the story and the trappings of it. And I think
Hmm.
that if you capture the feeling of Poe, that's stronger than a literal. A film that nobody seems to like, but I do, was and I don't know if you guys have talked about it on your show or not.
Hmm.
The 1971 Murders in the Rue Morgue. Uh,
Hmm.
We have a little bit. Our very after our introductory episode, our first like real episode was about Poe's detectives,
okay,
and Jeannie and I and a couple of our friends had like a movie day where we watched the was it is it 1934, Jeannie, the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, yes, and watched that one. Then we watched the 71, and then we watched the 1986 with George C. Scott.
George C.
right.
Scott.
Yeah, and the 71 we just it,
I
it
can
just
tell.
Yeah.
we did not care for it that much. So
But okay,
There was some aspects okay about it, but
yes,
it wasn't
yes,
wasn't a favorite. Let's put it that
yeah,
way.
I get that because it's not the story.
yeah.
Right.
It's more of a Phantom of the Opera thing. But still there is that, and Gordon Hassler, who directed it, said he was drawing upon the idea of Poe's poem A Dream Within a Dream.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The sort of the trippy nature of what's real, what's not, is this in the past, is this in the future, is this a dream, is
Hmm.
this reality?
And that
And
makes sense.
yeah, and you still have
That
a premature burial aspect. So there's
yeah.
all these like thematic elements that are very Poe-esque, but telling an original thing. And you have,
Yeah.
obviously nods to the story with the gorilla and all that, but making it a guy in a costume,
Hmm.
you know. But I think I really like that movie.
Hmm.
But
That's okay.
as yeah, um, I know nobody else does it. I'm always like making a case for this online, but still they were able to capture, it wasn't the story, but it still had a Poe feeling and a Poe,
Yeah.
you know, disorientation.
It
Hmm.
was poesque.
Yeah,
We
Yeah,
like to call it
it definitely
poesque.
was. Yeah.
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 More so
Well,
than like Four Gods of the Deep, but that's
oh
another.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Which
Yeah,
I also
I think I even made a comment, maybe it was to Carmen or to somebody else. The one thing
Yeah.
that I didn't like about the 71 movie
Hmm.
was that it was titled Murders in the Rue Morgue, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's what bothered me about it. Because the story, The Murders in the Rue Morgue, you're expecting a particular storyline,
right,
but
Yeah.
then the story was so far away from it that I think I would have been okay with it if it had been adapted. The title had been adapted to meet with the film.
Hmm.
That way I wouldn't have went in with this preconception of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
right,
And that was one of the things I think that bothered me the most is like, don't slap the title of that onto something that's not that.
right. No, that's totally fair to say. I mean, I
Yeah.
totally get it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think, Jeannie, I probably thought the same thing. It's like we thought that's what we were going into.
Mhm.
And while the Poe elements were there, if it had a different title and we knew going in it was something different, like if it was called A Dream Within a Dream or something like
right,
that, I
right,
think I probably would have had a better attitude toward the movie than Murder in the Rue Morgue not.
right. No, and that's totally fair and understandable.
Yeah, because Jason Robards is an excellent actor.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. He's okay in it. I'll say that. He's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
not one
Yeah.
of his best films.
yeah.
Yes.
He's
Yeah,
he's too real versus,
yeah,
Yeah.
a Christopher Lee type or someone that's got a little more sense of a grand guignol to
yeah.
Mhm.
play that. But
Hmm.
that's a totally fair thing. I can't remember if I knew. I had always sort of read about it, and everybody just like hated it, especially because they recut the film. So the
Mhm.
recut version was even more convoluted and
Oh,
strange and
wow.
missing. But the DVD was the original director's cut.
Okay.
I can't remember if I knew that it basically had nothing to do with Murders in the Rue Morgue or not.
Hmm.
I was just very forgiving and open-minded, and I was like, well, it's psychedelic. I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But yeah,
then that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense
Hmm.
that you didn't have a preconceived notion of what you were going into. So you
Right.
were looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
right,
It's kind of like sometimes when you want to like go shopping at the grocery store and you're looking for like a watermelon and then you pick up a honeydew and you're like, why is this labeled watermelon? Because it's not. It's a honeydew, you know. So that's kind of like what I felt like, just to say that. But yeah, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's all about perspective, especially when you are a filmmaker,
Yeah.
or a writer, or any type of artistic.
totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, one thing that I was going to ask you as well. So you've been behind the camera. Have you been in front and done any acting?
Um, uh, yeah, but I mean, when I was, I'll call them student movies because
Okay.
I didn't have enough guys at school that were willing to be in the movie. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to do this thing. But uh, I mean, no, I know, there's this weird sort of hypothetical pipe dream at some point when I'm older. I could be like
Mhm.
John Huston, where he'd show up in, Chinatown or Myra Breckenridge or something, and just like,
Yeah.
I really want to play a bad guy, like the Joker. But like, no, it's not. I don't consider myself an actor. I know my place.
Hmm.
I, yeah, yeah. Um,
Okay.
Well, cool.
Yeah,
Well,
I
there's
was just
nothing wrong with
curious
that.
because, yeah, I was just curious because some directors do act periodically. And so I was like, well, I'm going to ask that.
yeah, I mean, it's a. I mean, I know there's yeah, there are some actor directors.
Hmm.
Usually they started out as actors.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
They have that sort of ground training. To me, I think it's, well, I don't want to disparage that, or, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't I to me it's a little too egotistical. It's like, well, he wrote it, he starred in it, he directed it, he produced it, he did the like, well,
Yeah.
just give somebody
You're
else
a
a chance.
one man show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then again, like Clint Eastwood can do it, Polanski does it. I'm trying to think of other actor directors
Think.
that act in their own movies. But it's like there's so much you got to deal with, on a
Hmm.
Yeah.
day to day, let alone just the prep, like the months that go into, getting something done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did have to, I had to, not by choice, I had to be in our new film, The Great Nick D. There's a
Mm-hmm.
scene where Nick D, he's shooting an infomercial, and I had to be the camera operator within the infomercial.
Okay. Yeah.
You just see me like hiding behind a camera, and then stop and not say anything.
Oh,
Yeah,
very cool.
You're like your own Stan Lee in your own movies. There you go.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Although he's in more of them than I am, so
Oh
yeah.
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 Nothing wrong with that either. Be the
Absolutely.
voice behind the curtain. That works for me.
Yeah.
Well, Ansel, do you have a favorite Poe story or poem? I know you said that Mask of the Red Death and Pit and Pendulum kind of got you like familiar with Poe, but is there something else that is your favorite?
Um. Okay. What just sort of came to my mind? I have a double answer.
Okay.
Um. And we kind of already have touched on it. I think something that has sort of certainly inspired me in my work is A Dream Within a Dream.
Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
do like that aspect of what's reality, what's fantasy, and that whole
Mm-hmm.
question. Um, this isn't actually a Poe story, but Ray Bradbury in The Martian Chronicles, which is a book I loved as a kid, he
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
wrote the story Usher 2. And it's about this millionaire that now lives on Mars, and he wants to build the ultimate haunted house. And so he has this guy build the House of Usher, and
Very
within it
cool.
are all the sort of, I think the Pit and the Pendulum is like all the Poe, the world of Poe is built within this house.
Okay.
Um, and I've I've always loved that. I thought that was such a cool. I mean, it's Bradbury, but it's a huge
Yeah.
tribute to Poe,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's just like a cool idea, actually building the House of Usher.
Yeah.
on Mars. Yeah. Like, it's kind of a fitting, considering the ushers themselves are,
Mhm.
a little out there. So,
Right,
Yes.
right. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of another like an actual Poe.
Hmm.
Uh,
No, but that's awesome though, because like on our last Poe Unplugged, we read an Arctic Mystery by Jules Verne that, and it was one of like the first fan fictions. And it was a great, sequel to Arthur Gordon Pym.
oh, I
And
know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
no, it was
And
a sequel. No, it was a sequel to Descent into the Maelstrom.
no, Arthur
Wasn't it?
Gordon Pym.
Oh, that's right. No, we
Yeah.
were talking. You were talking. Oh, okay, sorry, wrong one.
No,
Never mind. Go ahead.
it's all good. We read that like right before we read this. So yeah, Jean, that's why I think yeah.
They're
But
kind of
anyway,
starting to blend. Sorry.
they do. Well, storms and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it he did such a great job of like we all said of kind of answering the questions that Poe left unanswered
Right,
in his book.
right.
So yeah, so I think that's a great answer of, saying Ray Bradbury's, story. So
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
it's it's definitely unique, but then
Hmm.
Yeah.
stuff is,
Oh
but yeah.
yeah, absolutely. He's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jeannie, do you have any
Mhm.
other thoughts or questions?
No, I think I pretty hit him pretty hard with some of the questions I had. So,
Yes.
because some of them kind of were like weird, kind of what? Okay, sorry. Kind of my brain kind of went, woo, okay, let's go with that one. So, but no, I think he's been very enlightening.
Yes.
Hope so.
So, thank you.
Uh,
Yes.
I
Well,
could
and
actually, I could
yeah.
tell you what's my story that I don't like of Poe is
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I hate that
which
story. The
Which
Black
one?
which
Cat.
one?
The
The
Black
Black
The
Cat.
black
Cat.
cat.
I
Okay.
don't. It's not
All
my.
right.
Uh,
I knew we liked each other. I love cats, and I hate that story because of
yeah,
what he does to that cat.
I remember.
Um,
I remember reading that when I was a kid, and I and we had cats, and
Mhm.
I did not. I was like, this
yeah,
is terrible.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. From cat people, we're both cat people too, so it's
Yeah.
we understand that.
And
We,
and
and I agree.
I think that is one of the reasons why that particular story is never taught in school
Hmm.
because of the animal abuse. And I think kids would not resonate. Some kids are going to like it just because of the horror factor, but then there are going to be other kids that just are very sensitive to that and just like I can't read this, and I can totally understand.
I mean, I went to a private school, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember, did we ever get taught Poe? And I don't think we ever were.
Oh
Which,
wow. Okay.
Probably not. I hate to say it, but it
Yeah.
is more of a state curriculum,
well, at
and
least they're
most
doing it. I
private.
mean, hey, at least they're
Yeah,
teaching. I guess I wasn't.
yeah.
Yeah. Like
There's nothing wrong with that.
I teach freshman English, and for us in our curriculum right now, now granted it's changed over the years, but right now Annabelle Lee is one of the things that we read freshman year, and we pair it up with Romeo and Juliet with kind of a star-crossed lovers theme. Is kind of how the curriculum's designed. But I know years past, we've had Mask of the Red Death, Fall of the House of Usher. There's been several that have, come in, and like The Raven used to be like the ninth grade read, and now
Yeah,
it's like down in middle school. So
that's good. That gives
yeah.
me hope for the
Oh
kids.
yeah. Yeah. It's Poe's really taught from about seventh grade up through 11th grade because usually senior year is usually like British lit. And so, yeah, so Poe gets hit upon for several years through middle and high school.
This is reassuring because yeah, I'm sitting here and I was like, I don't remember. I certainly knew it and I would do reports on it, but
Yeah,
I don't remember ever being even in like
taught it.
elementary. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it was uh yeah, and I don't think that the kids in my classes would have
No,
cared. Yeah.
yeah, I
Or
yeah,
would have cared.
said like
yeah,
Well,
yeah. We always
things,
find that fascinating.
yeah.
yeah,
And it's also, I think it also might be an age, a generational thing too, because
Mhm.
I can honestly say the only thing I was taught of Poe when I was in school was Annabelle Lee in the sixth grade. That was it.
Okay.
But I knew Poe myself because I loved to read him. My school was more concentrated on Shakespeare
yeah.
Okay.
because I was introduced to Shakespeare's Hamlet, Macbeth, all that when I was in seventh and eighth grade. That was
Mhm.
that was our English curriculum, Romeo and Juliet and all that.
Mhm.
So Poe was not as high up, I guess, in those days. So
I don't even think we did Romeo and Juliet. I remember uh we did do Julius Caesar in the 10th
hmm,
grade, and we had a really good teacher, and so he he was an actor,
that was
and
cool.
he would try to make us read it, and then
Mhm.
he would read something, and we would all be like, and so then by the end of the thing, we would, no, 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 you read it, because we're getting more out of it. And so then we'd also, and we would genuinely pay attention because he was really good. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, we didn't even really do Shakespeare. Um,
Wow.
yeah, we did Charles Dickens.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we we did a lot of more. I remember in the 12th grade, we did a lot more sort of like modern day readings. We did blindness.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
we did well, I was not I hated school, so I blocked out a lot. But I remember we read blindness in 12th grade until
Yeah.
Two Cities in 10th. But I
Okay.
don't remember ever doing Poe, and we only did Shakespeare just like the one time.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
that's reassuring for my nephew when he eventually goes to school that, okay, well, I've done my best to teach him about Universal Monsters and Poe and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he's 3, so he's got some time. But anyway,
Well, hey, maybe
Well,
by the time he gets there, he'll be ready and he'll be teaching other people about Poe and the Universal
that's right.
monsters and the horror
oh,
films and all that. So,
he knows them all, and he can howl like the Wolfman and
woo!
Phantom of the Opera and all that. And he thinks the creature from the Black Lagoon swims at the beach. So I'm like,
That's awesome.
Yes, you have done your job. Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh.
that's great. I love it.
Well, Ansel, is there anything else you want to share out with our viewers and listeners?
I actually had a question for you guys. Uh,
Yeah.
Okay.
what did you both think of it was 2010 or 2011, the Raven with John Cusack, where he played Poe?
Mhm,
It
mhm.
it definitely took license with Poe's story, like actual Poe. And so it was it was kind of a fun movie just because I love John Cusack, but it disappointed me with the the liberties that were taken, I guess, with
Right.
how they had, I don't want to give away too many spoilers. So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Jeannie.
yeah, no, I'm gonna say that, I do respect John Cusack as an actor. I do like
Hmm.
some of the things. I'm not a big fan. Sorry, John. I'm not a big fan, but I am appreciative of his talent.
Hmm.
However, like Carmen said, some of the liberties, and especially with the Raven, which is one of those it's kind of like Annabelle Lee. It's one of those staple Poe
Yeah.
things. If you mess with it too much, and if you do too much, it's kind of like when I was telling you earlier about don't call Murders in the Rue Morgue Murders in the Rue Morgue if it's going to have nothing to do with Murders in the Rue Morgue, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do something about the Raven, kind of, give me something that's going to want me attached to the Raven. You know,
Right.
Cusack, I hate to say it, but I don't think he had like the mental, craziness part of the Raven to go with it. To my, I don't like anything that's going to be fun or kind of comedic. I
Yeah.
want something that's going to connect, going to, get
Mhm.
down and dirty with it. Let's just go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was not uh
No,
was not really high.
I, I like all this because I hated it. I
Yeah.
like I thought it was I mean, yeah, you were taking Poe stories and things, but I thought it was heavy on the gore. It was
Mm-hmm.
not it wasn't the psychological, as you said, the craziness,
Right.
the madness, the
Yeah.
mystery. I mean, yeah, it was a murder mystery, but it it wasn't. It was
Right.
so focused on sort of the exploitation aspect of just let's just be as violent as possible
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
of Poe and his writings and his thought process. So and I see a lot of people like they really like it. And also I just thought it was badly plotted. Like when you
Well,
finally
It
yeah.
was.
reveal who was doing it, who we met 5 minutes before, seeing, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
And it looked nice, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good film. And I
Mm-mm.
see a
Yeah.
lot of people really do like it, and I'm fascinated as to why.
Yeah.
And and uh Yeah. So okay, you guys answered my question, and I'm
Okay.
happy they were all like the same.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've just like Jeannie and I have talked about it. And we talked about it.
Mhm.
That has come up, I think, on Poe Unplugged before, and just it's been like we didn't like spend a whole lot of time on it, but yeah, it's just I remember when it was coming out, and I was like, I really like John Cusack, just
Mhm.
bringing up memories of all his good movies from the '80s. And then it was just like I went to the theater to see it, and I was like, oh, I want
Yeah.
to like it so much, but I can't put my stamp of, I, you know,
No.
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
Yeah. It missed its mark
yeah, it
majorly.
did. It
I don't
did.
even think it. I don't even think the mark was within like few miles of where they were aiming
Yeah,
because it just totally. I'm
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
okay, that's not okay. It's like, don't do that to me.
yeah.
Don't.
Oh,
But, but yeah, it's so yeah, we're on the same page. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's
yes.
thumbs down for me.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and we've started doing a segment. One of our episodes each month is called Review Morgue,
Okay.
and we are starting from the beginning of the Poe films, and we're in the silent era right now. And what Jeannie, we give Raven cause for liking it, and Black Cat
Black cat
hisses for
hisses
what we
for
don't
things we
like.
don't like. Yeah. It's our own type of spin on Siskel and Ebert's
Yes,
thumbs up or thumbs down.
but
That's
but it was funny because when we started it, Jeannie was very insistent on we need to start from the beginning and just work our way through
Hmm.
from, in a chronological fashion. And because I was like, oh, let's do an old one, then let's do a new one. And I
Hmm.
told her not that long ago, I said, thank you for making me stick to your plan because I'm really enjoying going through these silent films. Like it's making me have a better appreciation than I already did. So,
yeah. You
yeah.
guys have done D.W. Griffith's film, and I can't remember the title, but
It's and what
Thou shalt not
it's
kill.
yes, but it's got
yeah.
a different.
Well,
It's got a
it's
second name
yeah,
too.
that's the parentheses of thou shalt
Yeah,
not kill. It's called
I don't have it written
it just went
down.
right out my head. I just
See
saw
the
it leave.
Yeah,
I
I can see
literally
the
did.
poster for it too in my mind. It's like
Yeah.
I have a book called the the just Poe movies. That's what it's called, Poe movies,
Oh,
Mhm.
very cool.
and it goes from the start till I think it's like 92 or 93 because that was when the book was published.
Okay,
Awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
writing this down. Yeah.
it's out of print, but
Oh,
you can
okay.
find it on Amazon
Yeah.
secondhand.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, and I remember because I've seen The Bells, which
Yeah.
is was it Lionel Barrymore and Boris Karloff, and it's a silence.
Oh, I no. Well, I would say
Mm,
I haven't. No, I haven't seen it. Yeah.
It doesn't really have anything to do with the bells because how do you bring the bells to life?
Right. Right.
But it's Karloff is a Dr. Caligari-esque hypnotist, and
Okay.
it's yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
silent
I
Yeah.
movie.
think it's on the list. I think I saw it because I'm using
Yeah.
the IMDb
Uh,
list to
Hmm.
get the chronological order of the movies, the releases, and some
Yeah.
of them, thankfully, we've been able to find on YouTube
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
because they are so old and everything. So it's been a nice little, like I told Carmen, the silent movies thing. I I used to love to watch the old, was it Charlie Chaplin? Is it Charlie
Hmm.
Chaplin? Yeah, the old
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplins. But yeah, some of them are like the D.W. Griffith one. I told Carmen, I'm like, they don't match. What the I'm like, the story doesn't match with what he's putting on the screen. What in the world? But it
I
just
liked
like,
that one better than she did. Yeah.
yeah,
Avenging
it's been,
Conscience. The Avenging
yes,
Conscience.
that's it.
Yes,
That's
that's
it.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you for remembering. Yes.
Computer
Yeah.
went off.
Avenging Conscious. I knew it was
Yes.
an A in there. I
Yeah,
just
I did
couldn't.
too.
I remembered the thou shalt not kill, which is kind of curious that I remembered that part of the parentheses, but okay.
Hmm.
But yeah, cool. But
Yeah.
Ansel, once more, thank you for joining us, and it's
Yes.
been a wonderful
Yeah.
discussion. And and you have your own YouTube channel, correct?
Yeah, it's
So,
Holland's Productions, and
Okay.
there's one G. It's just Hollandsworth,
Okay.
okay,
and
Holland.
so my website is the same thing, hollandsworthproductions.com, and you can
Okay.
find all my movies available on Blu-ray, DVD, streaming.
Awesome.
Yeah, the whole,
Okay.
how one watches things today.
And what's your major social media platforms? Is it X and
Uh,
Insta?
I just have the one Instagram, which is me, and I'm not a social media guy. I
Well,
Okay.
me either. Yay. Okay.
It's
So I
necessary
hate social
evil.
media.
I have to use it to promote my work, but
Right.
Yeah.
So YouTube and the website is the major places to go. And
Okay.
if you want to watch my stuff, that's the spot.
Okay.
And
awesome.
you can comment on my movie if you liked it or if you hated it. You see
Yeah.
it, one way or the other. But
Absolutely.
but yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
all right. Yes. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. It has
Mhm.
been a pleasure to meet you and talk to you. It's been so much
Mhm.
fun tonight.
It
Well,
has.
thank you for
Yes.
having me, and thank you for asking me interesting things I'm not usually asked. So
Yay! Oh, that's
Hey,
awesome.
I told you I'm kind of like the wizard behind the curtain. I got some
She
weird
is.
stuff going on here. I have weird thought patterns. Okay. So
All right. Well, Jeannie, I guess,
on
are we
on we are Poe
out?